Hi, I'm Susanna Crawford, GiveSmart's community manager, and this is a jam session. Our quick conversations with fundraising professionals to share how they have successfully and creatively diversified their funds, all in hopes that you can do it too. I'm thrilled to have Caitlin Wolcott today with us, the Director of Special Events at Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central Ohio. Today, Caitlin will share with us how she's planning her 2021 and organizing the many events that they do, even in this uncertain time. Caitlin, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's jump in with some fun rapid fire questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. How many people are served through Ronald McDonald House Charity Central Ohio annually?
So in our house alone, we serve 4,500 families a year.
Wow. And how many special events do you all run a year?
In a typical year, we host anywhere from 9 to 11 events. In 2021, we're looking at potentially hosting 10.
Fantastic. That's a lot to organize. And the last rapid fire question here is, what is your fundraising superpower?
I've been known for my responsiveness in my communications. One of our new committee chairs actually just mentioned to my boss the other day about how quick I am to respond to an email, and he doesn't understand how I do so. And my boss mentioned that she has no idea and I must be Superwoman. So I guess that's my superpower.
That's perfect. And that is probably the best superpower ever for a director of special events. Cool. So let's get into the content here on your events.
Sounds good.
So the first question I'm going to ask you is, running 10, 11 events a year, how do you stay organized and promote so many events?
It takes a whole team. We have a marketing team that's great. We meet together at the beginning of the year and kind of come up with a whole analysis. This year, we're doing a SWOT analysis on all of our events to truly figure out where our strengths and weaknesses are and how we can really hone in on some opportunities going into 2021. So we'll meet together, plan the year out, make sure nothing's overlapping, and then it makes sense out on our social media and on our website and what we're promoting in e-newsletters so that people aren't feeling bombarded with information or cross information, especially with some of our events that we host multiple times a year that seems similar. And then they do a great job of organizing it on our website into a calendar list format that's by month and organized that way. We also have, Facebook pages and letters that go out to our hospital employees and to just our general database that really help push our events. And that's kind of the marketing end. On my team, we're in charge of making sure all the events are organized, they are planned properly, they're all planned in the same format so it looks in unison. And we use a database called Asana. That's kind of like a task management system that really keeps us in line. Everybody's doing the same thing around the same time. So if your auction goes live 2 weeks before our event, my auction's going live 2 weeks before the event. And then our guests know when to anticipate things because it's all the same from start to finish. And that kind of helps us as directors and managers know what our team's working on when. So if we have questions, we can just go straight there to see where progress is. A lot of our communications back and forth, even with our graphic designer, all occurs in the same database. So it kind of puts everything in one spot and it's super easy to find.
That's fantastic. And I love talking about, having a cadence and the same thing replicated throughout events so you really understand and not recreate the wheel every time. I love it.
That's important.
Absolutely. And could you share some insights around your team and the committees that you have that are working with you?
Yeah, we have around a team of 4 right now that plan events. We all have an event lead on events. So I manage our golf classic, but then I also oversee all of the events. So my job is to make sure that all of the event leads are doing their jobs, that things are being planned accordingly, helping them plan with anything that they need or approvals. But then we have an event lead on each event that truly is diving into the details. They're meeting with the committees, they're putting together all the tiny little details that compose each event, which helps with how many we have, just keep things from getting lost. And then each of our events have their own committees, which have around 10 to 15 people on them. Most are people that have been to the event before and want to be more involved with the house and think that that's a great way to kind of get their foot in the door. Especially being at the event, it's helpful because we get it from the attendee perspective, and from a donor perspective even. So they definitely help provide different lights on some areas of planning. But our committees are really involved. They help from where the event's being taken place, when it's taken place, the pricing, what we're giving away, everything, all the way to the end of the event and reading the surveys that we get back and then in planning for the next year. So they are truly essential in our planning.
That's fantastic. Surveys, committees, using the resources that you have. And I'm just going to ask a quick follow-up question here. Keeping active engagement on committees can be difficult. Do you have any advice to keep people engaged and active and, doing the things that you talk about doing?
Yeah, it's definitely always a struggle with committees, and you're going to have those members that are invested 100%, some that, they're busy in their own lives, and we understand that, and can only be here, partial times, and then others that maybe you don't really hear from. I personally think that every committee member has its own strength. So I have some committee members that I know I can rely on to go get me auction items, but they're not going to make an ask to a sponsor. That's fine because I need auction items too. I have some committee members that love volunteering the day of, but maybe just aren't comfortable making those asks along the way. So each person's important, and it's utilizing those strengths and recognizing those strengths and not pushing them to do something that they're not comfortable with, because that's how you lose interest from people. And then I think also just following up during the year. We host committee meetings once a month, but then also just trying to keep them engaged in between those meetings is important. So in normal times, I would go and get coffee or try to meet them every once in a while, especially during the off times of planning, and just get their opinions on, how did you think it went? What would you like to see? What are your interests that I can help, engage you more in? And then just showing our appreciation too at the end of the events, they're the ones that help put it together as well. So I always like to give them a little thank you gift and thank you card and truly express how thankful I am of them, because they help make my job easier. And if they, get some really big wins along the way, I always send an email out to the whole committee of, congratulations, so-and-so for securing this. It's really helpful. Look at where we are now. Then it kind of gives them that little bit of fire and keep going. So
That's awesome. I'm so glad I asked that question because those are so helpful. It's obvious that you're good at finding people's superpowers and really recognizing and putting it out there. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll move to the next slide. Here we're going to talk about sponsorships as well as your 2021 outlook. So we'll start with, you have multiple different types of sponsorships and different events. So how do you organize these sponsorships? What does that look like?
So each event has its own sponsorship catalog, essentially. It's a flyer that we put together that's sponsor opportunities specific for that event only. The event leads can then hand this to the committee. They can go out and make asks to maybe companies that are in that, geographic area or the demographic that fits that event population that only makes sense maybe for that particular event. But at the beginning of the year, we really like to focus more on the holistic view. So we create a booklet. This year, we're doing an opportunities booklet for 2021. So it's going to look a little different than our 2020. It'll include everything that a company can do in the house. So everything from sponsorship of events to major gifts to annual naming rights to coming in and doing a team cuisine with our chef to cook for the family. So we're going into companies that we think could participate in multiple events or multiple areas of the organization and just showing them everything that they can do. This kind of helps them really figure out their giving and streamline it. So it's one ask and we're not having multiple departments in our organization go to the same company and make asks. So in this booklet, it'll show each of those events sponsorship opportunities. So if they really are only interested in one event, they know what that is. But then also it has the whole list of all the events and then packages that encompass more than one event into it. So it could have every single one of our events. It could have 4 of the events, depending on the level. And then with the increase in level, the increase in benefits occur. So the amount of tickets, the amount of exposure, things like that, that they get recognized for can be added on. And we customize all of these packages. So, I know you have the $20,000 one up there. If they're, like, hey, I really am just not a golfer. I don't want to participate in golf. Can I move that to something else? Absolutely. What do you love? Let's figure it out and let's come up with something comparable that can fit into this package. And then we go ahead and readjust it to what they want, because really it's about donor intent. And we want to make sure that our donors are happy and we're not forcing them into something that they're not going to use.
I love how you have taken multiple events, packaged it in, and really customized those packages to people. That is fantastic. And we have this slide here on the Hubbabaloo. Will you talk a little bit about what this specific event is? How many do you do these a year? What is this?
Yeah, it's a really fun event. We came up with it at our chapter and have patented the game. So it's really, really exciting for us. It is basically a raffle style game where women can win designer handbags, and they play this game. It's 8 rounds. We give around 30 designer handbags out each event. And it's really just a fun time. And during 2020, with all the pandemic, we figured out how to host it virtually, which taught us a lot. So we didn't have to cancel it, which was great. We were still able to raise funds. All of our hullabaloos, we did 5 this year, raised anywhere from about 75 to 100% of their original goal prior to all of coronavirus. So still great for having it virtually. But now we've learned that next year, going into 2021, we're looking at hosting 4 of these, all in different areas of Columbus or outside of Columbus, of 2 outlying counties where we serve a lot of the families. We're going to be able to host it hybrid. So fingers crossed it goes back to normal and we can have in-person events. We're going to incorporate the virtual side to it so that it opens up all new avenues for registration revenue, raffle, game booklets, all these things to help drive more revenue to help our families. So really this pandemic taught us great things and helped us be innovative and help us for future events.
So great, trying hybrid backup plans, going virtual, all those things that people are looking at for 2021. And my final question will be, for anyone who's thinking about planning their 2021 out, is it possible right now? And how do you kind of create backup plans and do these things?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing is we've gone through hopefully the worst of it all. So we know what, shutdown looks like. We know what certain capacities look like and how to create safe environments at our events. We did hold some in-person events and kept them very safe. And our surveys afterwards told us that our donors felt extremely safe being there. So we learned a lot of things. So I do think that planning for 2021 is completely possible. We're taking the approach of everything's going back to normal. Now, I know that's very high thinking and, very wishful thinking, but we want to plan for that so that we're ready, especially expenses wise. Because if we don't, then we won't have the expenses built in to be able to successfully plan that event. With the fallback of, we know that things might need to change, and then kind of having a plan B and C of, if this happens, here's what we'll do. And we can really mimic what we did from this year and what we learned in order to plan those. So we figured out, hybrid events with the hullabaloos. We figured out how to host golf safely. We figured out how to host our town center events safely, and incorporating new things that, even if the pandemic is not in existence, that we want to stay for this year because it really made the event better. So concierge services or special treatment of smaller groups, and really focus on those smaller groups at events, made our donors feel really special. And that's something that I think that we can plan for going into 2021, regardless of what it looks like.
Wonderful. So many lessons learned and takeaway, but also so hopeful for next year as well. I think that's a fantastic place to be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Caitlin, so much for joining us and sharing your story today. So appreciate you being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so that wraps us up, everyone, today. If you want more, visit us at givesmart.com/community for peer examples and industry insights, and we look forward to seeing you there. Okay.